We got a fun fact here. Research has shown that on average, college coaches receive only about 7 phone calls from recruits every week. So again, you don't have to wait for a college coach to call you. As a student athlete, you can initiate that phone call with a college coach. Now, again, like Danny mentioned, based on the sport, based on the division level, that coach may or may not be able to pick up the phone and talk to you. So as a freshman or sophomore, if you're calling a Division I or a Division II school, that coach can't pick up the phone and have a conversation with you.
Correct.
But once the certain dates hit, and again, depending on the sport, depending on the division level, we're looking at June 15th between sophomore and junior year, or September 1st of your junior year, that's when the coaches can pick up the phone and call you, but also they can answer your call and have a conversation with you. Now, typically you don't want that to be your first form of reaching out to a coach. You usually want there to be the email, some of the initial introductory type stuff, so that when you do have that conversation or you do call that coach, they know who you are. You're not just a random junior in high school calling a college coach and that coach has no idea who you are as a recruiter, a student, or anything.
Right, and it's not the worst thing in the world, but again, college coaches want to be well prepared for that as well. Kind of, reference the NCSA site, know who you are, what you bring to the table, are you really interested? And there will naturally just be follow-up questions with that. Just in an effort to learn a little bit more about that person, that student athlete, and that's what the athlete should be doing with the coach. Coach, what's your program like? What's your coaching philosophy? What's your training schedule look like? Right? What can I expect out of someone, out of a coach that's recruiting someone in my grad class, right? What are you really looking at? So again, have an intent, have a purpose, know why you're calling, but that should be a really good goal for any of your top prospects who wants to get on the phone with that coach.
Yeah, and as a student athlete, you want to be the one initiating and driving that process. Mom and dad, don't pick up the phone for your student athlete and call that college coach. Again, a college coach isn't going to initially want to speak with you. They're going to want to speak to the student athlete. Parents will eventually get involved. And we've talked about this before, but for a 16, 17-year-old kid, that can be a very scary process trying to have that recruiting conversation, that adult conversation with a college coach. And I think it's important that a student athlete is prepared. That's obviously part of what NCSA does. That's what we're here to help kind of coach student athletes and families through that process. But it sounds silly, but parents, the best thing you can do is probably help your student athlete practice. What questions are you going to ask? What are you going to bring up about yourself? Just even little things within how to use proper diction and how to, just be adult sounding on the phone so you don't sound like you're a juvenile trying to impress that college coach. So more than likely that's not going to always be the right
Well,
way
I think the best parallel for that is that it's almost like an interview. You almost prepare for that like an interview. You'll do practice interviews. You need to know what questions to be asking, but also what you're going to be asked. Another good resource, high school club coaches. Right, if you're struggling to get, this is a little bit of an insider tip, right? If you're struggling to get the college coach on the horn, ask your high school or club coach to set that up. Right, I think that the messaging there is that you're well prepared, you're well communicated, you're very serious and have had these discussions. You kind of know what you're gunning for. So if you have the club coach, the high school coach also speaking on your behalf, really it's that you want to get on the phone with that coach, but to have the backing of somebody else can be very helpful. So practicing with parents, practicing with a coach, kind of maybe they have some insider information. They know what college coaches are looking for, right? It never hurts to have an additional resource on your side to help this through.
And I think just like parents, you don't want to rely on that coach. You don't want to rely on the club or high school or travel coach. Like you still need to take that initiative and you still need to be the one that's having that communication. But again, if a coach can be sort of a third-party bridge to get you connected with a coach that you haven't been able to speak with, it's certainly something to take advantage of.
Sure.
Again, it's little things, right? Like don't be doing it in a mall. Don't be doing it in the car while you're driving. Be at home, be focused, be locked in on that conversation. Again, a college coach is giving you their full attention when they talk to you, and they're expecting that you give your full attention to them as well. You don't want to, again, have a bad impression, because again, first impressions can lead a long way within those conversations.
Sure, and a lot of that's going to be led in by electronic communication. So text messages, emails, it's not really a cold situation. It's planned out, right? A lot of coaches will either do that maybe right around when you get done with school, but typically in the evening, right? So I go home from workout, I get home, and I usually get on the horn. I was making maybe 10, 20 calls a night. Just depends on where we were. So, that's going to be scheduled ahead of time, and it should give you some time to prepare, again, very much like an interview. What questions should you be expecting? What questions do you want to ask of that coach? This is your time to figure that out if that's a good fit for you as well.
Yeah, and typically off-season is going to probably be maybe the best time to connect with a coach. Look at schedules, just be kind of common sense about that. Again, typically in the off-season when coaches have more downtime, it's a little bit easier because they're more likely in their office and have a little bit more free time on their
Sure,
hands.
but recruiting never stops.
Never stops.
Never sleeps. 24/7, in season, out of season, doesn't matter. You just got to balance it, and that's something that a coach knows about. So, do what you can to get on the horn with a college coach. Get on the phone with a college coach. This comes after you have generated a target list. You have a good sense that that program is good for you. You've communicated a little bit with the college coach. You're pretty certain that they're receptive of you being possibly part of their program, and then really start to dive in. That phone call, that human interaction is very telling, right? Both for the student athlete and the college coach to try and figure out if it's a good fit.
Even a little thing, right? Again, just because you call that coach doesn't mean they're going to answer. So have a voicemail prepared, right? Know what you want to say. Don't leave a 7-minute voicemail giving every accolade that you've ever accomplished and every grade in the history of your academic career. Again, even script it out, right? It sounds silly, but the more prepared you are, the more educated you sound in a voicemail with that information. Again, if I'm a college coach and I hear a really strong voicemail from a student athlete, maybe you want to pick the phone up and call that person, or do a little bit of research on them and check out their video or their email, their NCSA profile. So again, just be prepared for all situations. And again, even if it's scripting out a 45-second voicemail, rehearse it, practice it. Go in front of a mirror and talk about, again, these things sound silly, but it's all little things like that can, again, maybe get you above the other recruits or get you that opportunity to speak with that.
Yeah, again, 7 calls, inbound calls a week. If this coach is trying to recruit 1,000 kids and you get a phone call proactively from a student athlete, that stands out in your mind. Right, that's the quickest way to say, hey, coach, I'm interested. I'm somebody you should be paying attention to, right? So make that move. It's a high-level, mature move to make. If you're well prepared for that, it's going to pay dividends. 30 to 45-second voicemail, you don't give them everything about your life story. That's what the NCSA profile's for.
Right.
If you send an email, send a link to your profile. Right. That literally tells your entire playing history. It's got highlight film, coach contact points, where you're going to be playing in the summer, everything, right? So it doesn't need to be that in-depth. If you've got all your information in one spot online, just send them that. They'll be able to do whatever they need to do with that.
So again, we talked D1, D2, the coaches have restrictions and limitations. D3, NAI, junior colleges, there are no restrictions. So as a freshman in high school, you can get on the phone with the Division III coach, you can have that conversation. So again, knowing the rules of the different division levels, the sports, it's important as well. Again, our website, ncsasports.org, has a bunch of that information to help you know, again, if I'm going to call a coach as a sophomore in high school and then be upset that coach didn't call me back, if it's a Division I school, they can't call me back.
Right.
Again, knowing those sort of things too is really impactful and important.